Labour Congress. There are indications that the Trade Union Congress has not decided to join the Nigeria Labour Congress planned industrial action to protest the federal government's proposed petrol pump price hike. This is in Nigeria. The NLC has announced its decision to mobilize Nigerians, especially the civil society organization, for an industrial action following the federal government's decision to completely remove fuel subsidy, which in turn will result in a hike in the pump price of petroleum products. The protest is billed for January the 21st and February the 1st, but the Trade Union Congress is yet to decide. Joining us to discuss further, we've got Gospel Obele, who's an economist and founder of think tank Streetnomics. We've also got with us online, virtually, Omosuyi Temitope, investment strategist with Afrinvest Asset Management Ltd. Temitope, I want to start with you. I want to ask your reaction to, let's start with the labor issue. Trade Union Congress saying that they're going to deliberate and then come back with a response on, their response to this proposed subsidy removal from the federal government of Nigeria. Does that suggest, in your view, that all the prior talks between labor and government amounted to nothing? How do you see this development?
Well, I think we have continued to see periods of strike, threats to go on strike and all of that. In the last few years, we have seen a lot of that. So my concern is around the objective of protest. We understand that trade unions are very important in every economy because they are used to push for the welfare of the people, to be their members as well. But when you analyze Nigeria in terms of the effectiveness of trade union, over some times we've seen that the trade union continue to agitate for sustaining fuel subsidy in a bid to ensure that price stability is achieved. But when you look at it broadly, you will see that the end is not even achieved. So I think that what has been achieved so far by the trade union is the means. And what every Nigerian is concerned about is the end. So the trade union has always been able to achieve, pushing the government on to remove subsidy. But in terms of the price stability we are talking about, which is the grand objective of the union, it has not been achieved. Just look at inflation, for instance, or food prices. All of these things have gone up significantly. In Nigeria, we talk about long-term average inflation of 12%. But currently, inflation is well over 15%. Okay, we are looking at average for 2021 to be about 17.1%. So I think our focus should be on the end and not the means. And we should begin to look at factors that will help people, to achieve the end. So which is why when I talk about subsidy removal, one thing that I tell people is that no Nigerian consume or drink PMS. Nobody drinks PMS. The PMS is a composite demand. That is, you need it for something else, or a complementary demand, I beg your pardon. You need it for something else. For instance, if you have stable power supply, right, you won't think about getting a generator set. If you have an efficient transport system, you won't even know the price of PMS, which is why, there's a kind of disconnection between Brent price or international oil price and PMS price or petrol prices in Nigeria, because there's a lot of hurdles around all these things. So I think for me, I would rather the trade union should agitate for other holistic objectives than fuel subsidy removal, for us to just keep it, because over 1 trillion naira goes into this for more than how many years now, and that alone can cater to expenses in significant sectors of the economy. So I think my objective is this: they have to look at the end and not the means.
All right, great stuff. Gospel, Bella, let me bring you in here. Thank you, Omosuyi. You're welcome. Happy New Year. What are your thoughts on the subsidy, this situation, and this TUC wanting to take their time for their own response? NLC already has their response set. What do you make of what's happening?
I think it's just a cycle. I mean, we keep going back and forth. You increase something, people get on the streets and all of that. So the mainstay for me would be for us to begin to move into some form of intelligent advocacy. All right, to understand that you need to push your demands and hold government more accountable through civil society, pressure groups, shadow political parties, and the likes, and all that. So we need to move into a realm of intelligent advocacy, because in the first place, if you have that, you can sort of manage through, how the prices are being rolled out in the first place, and all of the institutional stakeholder engagement along the value chain that leads to what we are seeing at the moment. All right, so we need to evolve beyond these conversations. But interestingly, would expect that this would impact heavily on the quality of life and cost of living, as well as disposable incomes for Nigerians, which talks about the shrinking middle class and all those interesting things. So it has come to stay. unless there's intelligent advocacy to engage government on an accountable level across stakeholders on the value chain, nothing changes.
Thank you for that, Gospel. Temitope, when I come back to you, let's move to the the largest increase that we've seen for Nigerian students getting visas to study in the UK. The year-on-year increase was higher than, I think, from Pakistan, from China, from the United States, and everywhere else. How do you interpret this? Is it brain drain? Is there an impact on foreign exchange that's being spent for students to go abroad to go and study?
Okay, there are two arguments to this, right? And I would like to just start with this this joke. You know, a number of students that are ready to move, right, because they don't have the means. Don't be surprised that there are more than people that have moved already. So that is on the one hand. So when you look at what is happening, it's quite disturbing, right? But there's this one argument that once you have capital, in terms of quality people moving out of the country, you get remittances, right? But remittances is for consumption. And you need, for every economy to compete in 21st century, you need what? Technology, which is the major differentiator, right? So once you don't have mid to high skilled people that are actually leaving the country, then it's a problem for Nigeria long-term growth and development. And we know that, you know, another sad part is that, you know, government invests a lot into education, right? When it is time for government to provide the environment for us to now benefit from the skill that, you know, they have invested in people, these people are out of the country, which means there's an input from the government in billions of naira in terms of what government puts into public institutions, but the reward is to another country that never invested anything in these people. So it is very, very important for us to create environment for people to thrive, because whether we like it or not, in fact, you know, a global economy, you know, they understand the importance of migration. People from developing countries, they are overzealous. They are extremely hardworking. And most of the people that leave is not because of education, I can tell you. Not just because of education, although some proportion could be because of education. Because now we have, education is democratized. You know, look at a lot of tech guys in Nigeria that learned online. So it's not because of education. Most people are migrating to advanced economies. And in fact, I think what accentuated what we saw in the last 2-3 years was the, 2 years to be precise, was the fact that, you know, COVID-19 affected most of these economies, and they need a number of health practitioners. You know, some of them complained that they were not well rewarded in Nigeria. So they found the opportunity. UK, you know, relaxed some of their migration rules, and that, you know, that got a lot of them interested. So I think for us, it's just to create environments for people to find the country attractive. Otherwise, there's no respite in sight.
Thanks so much, Gospel. What's your take?
Thank you, Rotus. I mean, it interests you to note that a major bank in Nigeria has made about 2 billion in proof of funds in the last 1 year alone, right? So there is a growing market between demand, all right, skills development, all right, and the fact that we do not have the right market or a developed market to meet those skills. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So Nigerians will naturally seek to aspire for more. So I see this migration wave on 3 major legs. You know, you have, first of all, the loss of confidence in the social politics and the economy in general. Secondly, you have the fact that, you know, demand, skills development cannot meet market demand or develop markets in the sense we don't have that there. And third is just speaking to the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs, all right? The needs for to meet your desire for an aspirational lifestyle, you know, grow your base and all of that. So currently the context, the Nigerian context, does not enable any of those 3 legs in a sense. So we'll keep seeing a rise. That rise will continue. However, until we can begin to fix some of our structural and competitiveness issues, we may not be able to inspire human capital at the level of education, access to market, and improve quality of livelihood, security, and the likes. So outside that, I don't see this stopping anytime soon. It's going to be, I mean, 2023 is around the corner. So you expect a lot more movement because people are not sure, uncertainty. I mean, we are increasingly in a VUCA environment, and that alone already inspires the need to find a plan B. You know, yeah, so those are my thoughts, basically.
Thank you, Gospel. I think we've got about just a couple of minutes. Let me talk about, briefly, if you can, the central bank governor rankings. This conversation has been about Nigeria governor should have been ranked higher compared to his northern counterparts. Can you talk about the challenges, I guess, from the fiscal side that the central bank here faces in terms of inflation management and so on and so forth?
So I think, you know, monetary policy framework, you have the 3 legs to it, right? You have the operating target, you have the intermediate, and the ultimate objective. The ultimate objective of every economic policy is, you know, stable and low inflation. you can see that all the factors are attached to this, because if you want to analyze low inflation, you have to come from the output gap, the employment. So all of them are encapsulated in stable inflation. But to be candid, the facts are there, the numbers are there. We've not achieved stable inflation in the last, even since 2016 economic recession, we've not achieved that. And, it's taking a toll on the exchange rate. In fact, the World Bank said some tens of millions of Nigerians are in poverty because of, high inflation, and the CBN target is still between 6 to 9%. So quite clearly, and if you compare the current level, like I said earlier, with the long-term average inflation in Nigeria, which is 11.9% to 12%, we are far off. Quite clear that the inflation target is not met, but the concern is because most of these factors are outside the purview of the central bank. Although we cannot absorb the central bank of some of the tools that could have been used to respond to increase in prices. But I think, because if you look at the components of food inflation in Nigeria, right, 50% is accountable for by food components. And if you look at factors that are affecting food inflation, you talk about infrastructure, and you talk about insecurity, and in terms of exchange rate factor, because imported food inflation is also very high. So all of these factors, some of them are that depends on what the fiscal authority should do. So we think that it's high time that the Fiscal and Monetary Policy Authority came together to just harmonize policy, because the impact of inflation on every economy, especially Nigeria, is affecting exchange rate. If you look at it from the purchasing power parity analysis and from the welfare of the people, is a whole lot. I'm sure my partner will want to say more on that.
Exactly. Real quick, Gospel, I'll give you the last word, but less than a minute to go, very quickly.
Thank you so much. I mean, what we see is just very much more consistent with the RMB findings on the top 3 economies to invest in 2021: Egypt, Morocco, and SA. All right. So I think that the fiscal policy team in Nigeria within this context has to be a bit more complementary in terms of efforts and being intentional, all right, around the support the central bank needs. I think the central bank is a bit pressured on many grounds, and the nature of the Nigerian economy is a lot more VUCA than many other contexts. All right. Right from time, we've not really had macroeconomic stability and some form of inclusion. So that has to be factored in, and the necessary support the central bank needs. All right, the central bank seems to be firefighting on many grounds. Rolling out policies are a bit incoherent and inconsistent when you look at it from the view of the commercial banks and other stakeholders. So I think the central bank has to work more with the fiscal policy team, and all that. And then there is need for more context-driven approach towards solutions of what we're looking at, majorly from the structural and competitiveness standpoint. And once we have that, I think we're in a very good place in view of rankings for next year.
Gospel Obele, economist, head of Streetnomics think tank, and also Omosuyi Temitope, investment strategist with Afrinvest Asset Management Ltd. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.